as I explored all the options of what I wanted to do for a career, I looked around, but still I kept coming back to dentistry, and it's something that I always wanted to do. I guess you could say that it's in my blood. I am a fourth-generation dentist. My great-grandfather in the 1880s apprenticed himself to another dentist in rural Utah and learned the trade, so to speak. That's the way it was learned a lot. And then later on went to University of Chicago in the 1890s and learned more about gold work. And he had never been trained in anesthetic. I mean, when he was originally trained, there was no such thing as Novocaine. Whiskey, I'm serious, and one of the compliments my great-grandfather had was that he moved well with the patient. So, you know, obviously dentistry 100 years later, 100 and some odd years later, is much different. But he also, they would administer ether in the proper situation, because that's what they had. They had nitrous oxide. But still, it's a whole different angle that you have to approach things at when you know that there's going to be some pain involved. He raised 7 or 8 sons, and 4 of those went on to become dentists. And one of them was my grandfather. I graduated in 1915 from Loyola in Chicago. In the 1920s, my great-grandfather by that time, of course, was in his mid-50s, 60s, and worked with his 4 sons. They had a group practice in Ogden, Utah in the 20s. You know, the 20s, obviously, the economy was quite good, so they worked closely together. I've read many stories of how they practiced and what they did, but it was very, very cosmopolitan for the time, and a lot of enjoyable family camaraderie. And then when the stock market fell, it was time for each to find his own way. A couple of them went to Arizona, one stayed up in Ogden, and my grandfather moved to Nevada. He moved to Pioche, Nevada, and practiced there for quite a number of years. It was a booming mining town that had its own colorful history. Well, about 1942, he could see the potential of Las Vegas and decided it was time to move south. There was a lot of people in Pioche that said, hey, you're crazy to move to that little town, because at the time Las Vegas was smaller than Pioche. Well, I think he had some vision there and some foresight. He moved down here and was one of 2 dentists. He practiced off of Main and Fremont on top of the old Western Union building, and had many years of practice until the mid to late 1960s. My father graduated from Las Vegas High School and decided that dentistry was a profession he wanted to follow. He practiced in town from the early 60s until 1997, and is now retired. He, of course, is one of my patients. He lives here in town. I've had a few patients that even my grandfather saw. It's exciting to see how dentistry has evolved over the years, making sure that we're staying current with the things that are now the 21st century. It's just exciting to see what's there, and 10, 20 years from now, what else is going to be available that we can do and help patients with.